The night was quiet around the human outpost built deep in the icy valley. The sky above was dark and filled with strange glowing clouds. A single soldier, Daniel, walked through the corridor carrying clothes and armor that needed cleaning. He had been working with alien allies for many months now, learning their customs and language, but there were still many things he did not understand. Daniel entered the washing chamber. He looked at the pile of items on the table. Most of them were human uniforms and some alien fabric pieces. Then his eyes stopped at one strange piece of armor. It was heavy, dark silver, and had strange glowing lines carved into it. It belonged to one of the alien warriors, a girl named Soraya. She was part of the warrior caste of her people, tall and strong with sharp eyes and long silver hair. Daniel thought nothing of it. The armor looked dusty and dirty from the last training mission. He picked it up and placed it in the cleaning unit. The machine began to hum, spraying water and light across the armor. Slowly, the silver plates began to shine as the dust washed away. Daniel smiled. He thought he was doing a good job. He believed she would be thankful. When the armor was done, Daniel carefully placed it back on the rack. It looked brighter now, glowing under the lights. He left the chamber without knowing what he had just done. Later that night, Soraya returned from the training ground. Her steps were heavy but graceful. She walked into the chamber to prepare her armor. When she saw it on the rack, cleaned and shining, she stopped moving. Her eyes grew wide. The air in the room seemed to freeze. She did not breathe. She did not blink. Her hands trembled as she reached out and touched the clean armor. Her entire body stiffened. A soft whisper escaped her lips, but it was filled with fear. Who touched this? Daniel was still nearby, checking supplies. He turned his head and walked back to the chamber. He smiled casually. I cleaned it for you. Look, it was dusty. Now it looks perfect again. Silence fell. Heavy, sharp silence that felt like a blade pressing against the skin. Soraya slowly turned her head toward him. Her silver eyes locked onto his face. They were not filled with anger, but with shock. Her voice came out broken, almost trembling. Do you know what that means? Daniel frowned. He did not understand. To him it was just armor. It means it is clean? He asked carefully. Her hand pressed tightly against the silver chest plate. Her lips trembled. For the first time since he met her, Soraya looked afraid. Around them, other alien warriors heard her words. They stopped what they were doing and turned to watch. Whispers spread quickly through the hall. The humans in the outpost looked confused, but the aliens looked shocked, even horrified. Daniel felt his chest tighten. Something was wrong. Very wrong. Soraya took a deep breath, but her voice was still shaking. Among my people, armor is sacred. It is never touched by another. To clean the armor of a warrior means... She stopped, as if the words were too heavy to speak. Her eyes softened with fear and with something deeper he could not name. It means you have accepted a bond. Daniel felt his heartbeat pound, louder in his ears. A bond? What kind of bond? She continued, her voice barely more than a whisper. A blood bond. It is stronger than marriage. It is a vow of life and death. It means you have promised to fight for me, beside me until your last breath. And if you break it, both of us will fall in shame. The room grew colder. The alien warriors watching gasped. One of them muttered in their language, but Daniel could hear the anger in the tone. Another warrior stepped forward, glaring at him, but Soraya raised her hand, stopping him. Her eyes never left Daniel's face. They were sharp, searching, as if they could cut into his soul. Do you understand what you have done? She asked again. Daniel felt sweat gather on his forehead. He wanted to speak, but words refused to come. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. Finally, his voice cracked. No. I did not know. I just thought. Her voice cut through his excuse like a blade. Ignorance does not erase the vow. The armor has accepted your touch. The bond is sealed. The whispers in the hall grew louder. Some aliens looked furious. Some looked afraid. A few looked curious, as if something great had just begun. Daniel's knees felt weak. He had only wanted to help. Now it seemed he had tied himself to a destiny he did not understand. Soraya slowly lifted the armor, cradling it against her chest. Her eyes softened, filled with conflict. She stepped closer, her voice low, meant only for him. From this moment, you are no longer just a guest among us. You are mine. My bond, my partner in battle, my shield and my blade. Whether you wish it or not. Daniel's breath caught. His hands shook. He wanted to run, but his feet refused to move. The other aliens stood in silence now, waiting, watching, judging. The weight of their stares pressed down on him like mountains. And in that silence, Daniel realized something terrible. His small mistake, a simple act of kindness, had set a chain of events in motion that could not be undone. The armor shone in the cold light. Soraya's voice echoed in his ears. Do you know what that means? The words kept repeating inside his mind. He felt as if the world had shifted, as if the ground itself was no longer stable. He had touched something forbidden. He had awakened a law older than his people. He had entered a bond that could shape the fate of humans and aliens alike. And as Soraya stood before him, her silver eyes burning with fear and fire, Daniel understood one truth. Nothing would ever be the same again. The hall was filled with whispers that refused to die. Daniel stood frozen, feeling every alien eye burning into his skin. He could hear their language, strange and sharp, words rolling like thunder across the chamber. Though he could not understand all of it, the tone was clear. Fear, anger, shock. Soraya held the armor close to her chest. Her silver eyes were unblinking, and her voice carried the weight of 1,000 years of custom. Among my people, she said slowly, as if teaching a child, armor is not only protection, it is life, it is blood, it is the soul of a warrior. When another touches it, when another dares to clean it, that act carries the deepest meaning. It is not small, it is not harmless, it is a vow. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He wanted to explain again that he did not know, that he had only been trying to help. But her eyes silenced him. He understood now that this was bigger than him, bigger than his intention. One of the older alien warriors stepped forward. His face was marked with scars, his eyes glowing faintly with the power of his kind. His voice was deep and sharp. This human has broken the boundary. He has crossed into the sacred. He must face judgment. The room grew tense. Some aliens nodded. Others looked uneasy. The humans nearby shifted nervously, not sure what was happening. Soraya raised her hand. Wait. Her voice echoed through the hall, strong despite the fear in her eyes. She stood tall, pressing the shining armor against her chest. The bond is sealed. To deny it would be to dishonor the old ways. He is mine now, bound by tradition. The scarred warrior snarled. He is not of our blood. He is not of our kind. How can he carry such a vow? Soraya's gaze hardened. The bond does not care for blood. The bond does not care for kind. The bond only cares for truth. His hands have touched my armor. His will has cleaned it. The vow is alive. Daniel's heart hammered. He felt like a prisoner in a court he did not understand. He wanted to shout, to fight against the invisible chains wrapping around him. But part of him knew it was useless. The alien law had already claimed him. The scarred warrior's eyes narrowed. Then let him prove it. Daniel's stomach dropped. Prove it? Prove what? The warrior continued. If he has taken the bond, let him show his worth. Let him walk the path of our warriors. Let him face the trial of honor. A murmur spread through the aliens. Some gasped, some nodded. Some looked at Daniel with pity. Daniel swallowed hard. Trial? What trial? He whispered almost to himself. Soraya turned her face toward him. Her silver eyes softened for the first time. There was sadness in them, but also something else, a strange respect. The trial of honor, she said quietly, is a test older than memory. It proves if a warrior is worthy of their bond, it is dangerous, it is cruel. Many do not survive. Daniel felt the ground tilt beneath him. He had only cleaned a piece of armor. Now he was being asked to risk his life in some alien trial. His mind screamed at the absurdity, but the faces around him showed no humor. To them, this was deadly serious. The scarred warrior's voice thundered again. If he fails, the bond breaks, and when the bond breaks, both will face shame, shame worse than death. The council will cast them out. Daniel looked at Soraya. For the first time, he saw fear not just for herself, but for him. She whispered so low only he could hear. You did not know what you were doing, but the bond does not forgive. If you refuse the trial, both of us will be ruined. If you fail, both of us will be broken. But if you succeed— She paused, her voice trembling. If you succeed, you will become something no human has ever been. Daniel's hands shook. He felt trapped between impossible choices. Refuse and doom them both. Accept and face death. Soraya's eyes searched his, waiting. The silence stretched heavy as stone. Finally, Daniel spoke, his voice hoarse. What do I have to do? The scarred warrior's lips curled into a cruel smile. You will see. Tomorrow, at dawn, the trial begins. The hall erupted in noise. Some shouted, some whispered. The humans tried to demand answers, but the aliens ignored them. The decision was final. As the crowd dispersed, Daniel felt Soraya step closer. She placed the armor carefully on the rack, then turned back to him. Her voice was low, filled with urgency. You must listen to me, she said. The trial will not test only your strength. It will test your spirit. It will test if you can carry the bond without breaking. Many warriors of my own people have failed. You are human. You are weaker in their eyes. They expect you to fall. Daniel clenched his fists. He felt anger rising in him, but also fear. Then why defend me? Why not let them cast me aside? Her silver eyes burned with something fierce. Because the bond is real. Whether you wanted it or not, it is now part of us. If you fall, I fall. If you break, I break. And I will not allow that. Daniel stared at her, unable to speak. There was no escape now. He was tied to her fate. That night he lay awake in his quarters, staring at the ceiling. The alien stars glowed faintly through the window. His mind repeated her words again and again. The bond is sealed. The trial begins at dawn. He had entered a world of rules and traditions he could not understand. A simple act of kindness had turned into a chain that bound him tighter than any prison. As the cold night pressed against the walls, Daniel realized something terrifying. Tomorrow, his life would change forever. Either he would rise and prove himself, or both he and Soraya would be destroyed. And in the silence of that night, the weight of the dangerous tradition settled heavy on his heart. The dawn came cold and heavy. Pale light slid across the alien outpost, casting long shadows over the stone courtyard. Daniel walked slowly behind Soraya, his heart pounding louder than the steps of his boots. He had not slept. Every hour of the night he had stared at the ceiling, hearing her words again and again. The bond is sealed. The trial begins at dawn. Now dawn was here, and so was the trial. The courtyard was already filled with alien warriors. Their armor glowed, faintly under the rising sun, their weapons shining like living flame. They stood in circles, whispering in their strange language. The humans of the outpost gathered at the edges, confusion written across their faces. None of them understood what was about to happen. None of them knew the cost of a mistake. Daniel felt all of their eyes on him. He walked stiffly, his stomach twisting with dread. His hands shook, but he forced them still. He had to appear strong, even if he did not feel it. At the center of the courtyard stood the scarred warrior, the one who had demanded the trial. His eyes burned like fire as he watched Daniel approach. Around him, alien elders sat in a circle, their robes flowing, their faces unreadable. The trial would not only be a test of survival, it would be a spectacle, a judgment. Soraya walked beside Daniel. She held her armor close, her expression sharp and unreadable. But when her hand brushed against his arm, he felt the smallest tremor. She was afraid too. Yet she stood tall, never showing it to her people. The scarred warrior raised, his hand in silence fell, his voice carried like thunder. This human touched the sacred. He washed the armor of a warrior. The bond is sealed, but a bond without proof is nothing. Today he faces the trial of honor. If he survives, the bond stands. If he fails, the bond breaks and both he and Soraya fall into shame, the crowd murmured. Some looked eager, some looked grim. Some only watched with cold curiosity. Daniel swallowed hard. He wanted to shout that it was all a mistake, that he never meant for any of this. But he knew it would not matter. The tradition was stronger than his words. The scarred warrior's voice grew louder. The trial is simple. The human will face the beast of the valley. If he fights with courage, if he proves his will, he may live. If not, the beast will decide his fate. A heavy gate opened on the far side of the courtyard. From the shadows, a sound rose. Low, deep, terrifying. Daniel's skin crawled as glowing eyes appeared in the dark. Then the creature stepped into the light. It was massive, taller than a man with black scales and claws like blades. Its mouth opened wide, showing rows of sharp teeth. The ground seemed to shake under its steps. The crowd drew back in fear, but also excitement. Daniel froze. He had never seen such a thing. His weapon was a simple spear given to him by the aliens. Against this monster it felt like a stick. Soraya leaned close to him, her voice barely a whisper. This is not about killing the beast. It is about showing who you are. Remember that. Her words confused him, but there was no time to think. The beast roared and the trial began. Daniel's body moved before his mind caught up. He dodged to the side as the creature's claws slashed through the air. The ground cracked where the claws struck. He rolled, barely escaping. His heart pounded. He had no plan. He had no training for this. The beast lunged again, its jaws snapping, shut inches from his arm. He stumbled back, thrusting the spear forward. The tip scraped against the scales, sparking but not cutting. The beast roared in fury, swinging its tail. The force threw Daniel across the courtyard. Pain shot through his ribs as he hit the ground. The aliens shouted. Some laughed, some cheered. Daniel gasped for breath, struggling to rise. He looked at Soraya. Her eyes burned with desperate fire. She did not move, could not move. The trial was his alone. Daniel forced himself to stand. Blood ran from a cut on his forehead. He gripped the spear tighter. He remembered her words. Not about killing, about showing who you are. The beast charged again. Daniel's fear screamed at him to run, but something deeper rose inside him. Anger, defiance. He was not a warrior like them. He was not strong like them, but he would not die on his knees. He planted his feet and shouted, swinging the spear as the beast leapt. The spear struck its eye. The creature howled in pain, stumbling back. The crowd gasped. Daniel's chest heaved. He felt strength rising in him, born not from skill, but from will. He did not stop. He rushed forward, shouting, striking again and again. His spear could not pierce the scales, but his courage carried through. He stood tall, facing the beast without retreat. The scarred warrior's eyes narrowed. The elders whispered among themselves. Soraya's lips parted, her fear shifting into something else. Pride. The beast roared again, blinded in one eye, thrashing wildly. Daniel rolled aside, landing hard, but he rose again. He gripped the spear with bloody hands. He faced the beast again, refusing to yield. Minutes passed. The fight raged. Daniel grew weaker, his body screaming in pain. But he never fell. He never gave up. Finally, the scarred warrior raised his hand. His voice boomed. Enough. The beast froze. With a command from its handlers, it was pulled back into the shadows, roaring in frustration. Daniel collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath, drenched in sweat and blood. He had not killed the beast, but he had stood against it. He had endured. The courtyard was silent. Every eye was on him. The scarred warrior studied him for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. He lives. The bond stands. The crowd erupted in noise. Some cheered, some cursed, but none could deny it. The human had faced the trial. He had proved his will. Soraya rushed to his side. She knelt beside him, her silver hair falling across her face. Her voice was soft, filled with something he had never heard before. You did it. You proved it. The bond is real. Daniel looked at her, his vision blurred, his body broken. But in her eyes he saw something clear, something unshakable. And in that moment he understood the hidden meaning. This was not about armor, not about a mistake. It was about destiny, a bond forged by accident, but carried by will. The galaxy had changed, and he was at the center of it. Daniel woke in the med bay with light pain moving through his ribs. The room was quiet and cool. Soft blue lights glowed in the ceiling like small moons. Soraya sat beside him with her armor on her lap, the silver plates shining as if they held a calm fire inside them. She did not look tired, but her eyes were deep, like she had carried a mountain all night. You lived, she said in a low voice. I did, Daniel answered. His throat felt dry. His mind replayed the beast, the roar, the dust, the pain, and the moment the elders had said the bond stands. He felt both heavy and light at the same time. Soraya ran her fingers over the armor's chestplate. Faint lines glimmered there. They were not scratches. They were a pattern, like veins under clear water. There is more, she said. The trial was only the first gate. At dusk we must walk the oath road. We must stand in the circle of breath before the council. If our words are false, the floor cracks. If our hearts are false, the armor dims. If both are true, the glow rises and the bond becomes law. Daniel stared at the faint lines. And if we fail? Then the council breaks the bond. We fall into shame, and the alliance becomes weak. Some in this place want that. They want fear. They want separation. Before he could ask more, the door opened with a soft hiss. The scarred warrior entered, the same one who had demanded the trial. His eyes were hard, but they did not hold the same fire as before. He stopped at the foot of the bed and studied Daniel for a long breath. You did not fall, the warrior said. That is rare. I stood because I had to, Daniel answered. The warrior's mouth moved like a slow storm. It was not a smile. Dusk will be worse. The oath road is quiet, but it cuts deeper than claws. There are those who will try to break you before you reach the circle. He glanced at Soraya. The red crest still moves in the shadows. Soraya's jaw set. They would not dare strike inside the council walls.